Welcome to my channel. Today, we are going to discuss the Elizabethan period spanning from 1558 to 1603. That is the golden age of English drama and poetry. Why do we call this the golden age? Because drama, poetry, and a new national consciousness exploded at once. Today we'll see why the Elizabethan period changed English literature forever. Quick roadmap. Historical context, then theater and performance, then discussing genres, drama, poetry, prose, moving to major writers, focusing on language and style, stopping at study tips. By the end you'll have the dates, the major players, what made the literature special, and what to look out for in exams. Historical and cultural background. Dates: 1558 to 1603, reign of Queen Elizabeth I. Political stability. After Tudor religious turbulence, Elizabeth's moderate settlement produced relative political stability that allowed the arts to flourish. National confidence. Defeat of the Spanish Armada, 1588, boosted national pride. England began to see itself as a maritime and colonial power. Education and printing. Grammar schools plus printing press made literacy and literary culture expand. Patronage. Court patronage, Elizabethan nobles, supported writers and theatrical companies. Public life and the theater. Theater as mass entertainment. Public theaters, Globe, Rose, Swan, drew large, mixed audiences, artisans, merchants, gentry. There were also private indoor theaters, Blackfriars. Acting companies and patrons. Companies were sponsored by noble patrons, e.g., Lord Chamberlain's Men, Shakespeare's company. Performance conditions. Daylight performances, minimal scenery, portable costumes, music, special effects, trapdoors, thunder. Female roles were played by adolescent boys. Censorship and control. Plays had to be licensed, master of revels. Drama could be politically risky. Why this matters? Theater became a public space where questions of identity, power, and nation were staged for diverse audiences. Dominant genres and forms. Drama, major focus, blank verse and iambic pentameter, became the dominant dramatic line, flexible and close to natural speech. Example mention. Marlowe pioneered powerful blank verse. Shakespeare expanded its expressiveness. Types of drama. Tragedy, history plays, Marlowe, Shakespeare, revenge drama, beginnings, Kit, romantic, comic plays. Drama's scale. From courtly masques and pageants to large public spectacles. Poetry. Sonnets and sonnet sequences. Sonnets, Shakespeare, Sidney, explored love, time, mortality. Two main sonnet models. Petrarchan, Italian, and English, Shakespearean. Spenserian stanza. Edmund Spenser invented the Spenserian stanza, ABABBCBCC, used in The Faerie Queene. Lyric and pastoral. Courtly lyrics, pastorals, and allegorical poetry were popular. Prose. Pamphlets and prose satire. Writers like Thomas Nash and pamphleteers experimented with prose forms, controversial, lively essays, and picaresque prose. Prose romance and prose treatise. Translation of continental works, conduct books, and travel narratives. Major writers and what they gave us. William Shakespeare, 1564 to 1616, playwright and poet. Key Elizabethan plays. Romeo and Juliet, circa 1591 to 95, A Midsummer Night's Dream, circa 1595 to 96, Richard II, circa 1595. Shakespeare shaped character psychology, added linguistic richness, and used verse and prose strategically. Study tip. Note how Shakespeare uses verse for nobility and intensity, prose for comic or lower-class speech. Christopher Marlowe, 1564 to 1593, powerful blank verse and tragic protagonists, e.g., Dr. Faustus. Marlowe's dramatic energy paved the way for Shakespeare. Edmund Spenser, 1552 to 1599, epic allegory The Faerie Queene, 1590-1596. Created the Spenserian stanza, fused classical and medieval influences. Sir Philip Sidney, 1554 to 1586, Astrophel and Stella, sonnet sequence, The Defense of Poesy, important early literary criticism. Thomas Kyd, 1558-1594, The Spanish Tragedy, early revenge drama, influence on Elizabethan tragedy. Others. Lely, court comedy, Green and Nash, prose pamphlets and city comedy. Language, style and techniques. Rhetorical excess and ornamentation, use of metaphor, grand rhetoric, and classical allusions. Figures of speech. Antithesis, apostrophe, hyperbole, puns, Shakespeare's frequent wordplay, Conceits, precursors to metaphysical conceits. Blank verse mastery. Long and jammed lines, varied caesuras, rhythmic freedom to suit thought and emotion. Imagery. Nature, classical illusion, war and courtly images dominate. Let's analyze Shakespeare's "Shall I compare thee to a summer's day?" Sonnet 18. As an example. Form. Sonnet. Set of 14 lines, often with a volta, turn. Imagery and argument. The speaker begins with a rhetorical question, sets up a comparison and then argues the beloved's immortality through verse. Meter and sound. Iambic pentameter, end stopped, enjambment choices, rhyme scheme, Shakespearean ABABCDCDEFEFGG. Influence and legacy. Elizabethan literature established English as a flexible language of high art and popular drama. The theatrical techniques and poetic forms developed here shaped later English literature. Wrap up and study checklist. Dates: 1558 to 1603. Themes: humanism, national identity, court and city life. Forms to know: blank verse, sonnet, Petrarchan versus Shakespearean, Spenserian stanza. Key authors: Shakespeare, Marlowe, Spenser, Sidney, Kidd. Next video. Jacobean period, darker, more introspective, and full of metaphysical turns. Comment which author you want a dedicated deep dive on.